here you're really being vulnerable. And, we look at vulnerability as leadership. So you want to lead with your vulnerability just so your other partner will feel safe enough to be vulnerable as well.
We're excited for this episode to introduce you guys to such a dope couple. We have Frankie, who is a teacher. He's also a coach of many different teams. And we have Jazz, who is a nurse. So she's out there saving lives. They are known as Creating Forevers. Welcome them, guys, as
We're so excited to have y'all today. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great.
So we're going to have some really good conversations with y'all. But before we get started into the actual topic, we like to do this little segment where it's called This or That. And it gives us an opportunity to get to know you guys.
Okay.
So I'll say, like, do you prefer this or do you prefer that? And then you guys can each individually answer which one you like the most, right?
Okay.
And so the first one is, do you prefer to eat out or to cook in?
I prefer to eat out. I love to cook, but I prefer to eat out.
Eating out is so much simpler.
Oh, thank you.
You're right on.
Heart.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, do you prefer to save? Are you a saver or are you a spender?
I'm cheap. I'm a saver.
Well,
she's in the middle.
Yeah, I like to spend, but I like to save too. So if I see something I want, then yeah, I gotta get it.
So the next one is, do you like action movies or romance movies?
Action.
I'm definitely romance, but if he's looking at something action, then I typically get into it. But to just go and look at an action movie, no.
Okay, let's see. We got two more. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm definitely an introvert.
I can be introverted on some days. Some days I'm a social butterfly at work, and some days, they're like, "Have you seen Coach Ivy today?" Like,
do you prefer Audible, the actual book, or a podcast?
Ooh, I partake in all three. You know what I've been doing lately? I bought an audio book and I read along with the ebook. And I'm like, I know I'm spending double the money, but I don't know. It's just something about that process I like.
I would say I like a physical book because I like to have it right there. So if I want to underline something or highlight, I can do that. I guess because I've been in school. So I like to have
that's what I was thinking.
And then I'll listen to audio if I'm on the go.
And I believe we're talking today about communication and creating that safe space for your spouse. Yeah. Right? So you guys specialize in communication. When people come to you, the main thing that they bring up is like lack of communication and the things that kind of brings along the way. So how did that come about?
Okay, so most of the time what we see and what we have experienced ourselves, when you get to a point where you really need to work on your communication, that stems from a place of a lot of unspoken expectations. And it comes from a place of, letting things build up, letting resentment build until you lash out. Or some people are the completely opposite, where they never say anything and they lash out outside of the relationship. It could be, with your parents or with your kids or with your coworkers, and like, oh, you acting different today, like, what you got going on? And so we see both sides of that. And so I think when couples really come to term that, we need to work on our communication, is when you're repeatedly going to bed at night and not saying nothing to each other. You're walking around the house, silent treatment type thing, or you could be the opposite, where you can never get through a conversation without an argument. Yeah. And, we call it the vicious cycle of the ongoing argument. You're not really arguing about one specific thing. It's just every time something comes up, one partner say, see, that's what I'm talking about. And you're like, so what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I think that's one of the things that people really come to terms with, like, okay, we need to work on our communication if we're going to make this relationship work. And the second thing, creating a safe space to where you're able to talk about the things that you're dealing with. We use this technique called H.O.T.T communication, and that's hot with 2 T's, and that's humble, open, transparent, and trusting communication. And so the first thing, excuse me, and the first thing being there is being humble, right? And so, a lot of time when we're, in heated conversations, that's the last thing is on our mind is being humble, right? But if we can get to a space where we can humble ourselves, we can have better communication. We can be more empathetic to each partner. The second thing is being open. And here we really like to focus on having an open mindset. So you can kind of put yourselves in your partner's shoes and kind of look at it from their point of view. The third thing is transparent. Here you're really being vulnerable. And, we look at vulnerability as leadership. So you want to lead with your vulnerability just so your other partner will feel safe enough to be vulnerable as well. Let them know your insecurities, let them know the things you're dealing with right now, your pet peeves, things that may have been going on for months that you have maybe been afraid to say. Go ahead and be vulnerable, let them know, and, say it in a humble way. Going back to the first one, a lot of times, we can say, well, I don't like when you do this and I want you to stop. But if we say it in a more humble way, we can say, I feel disrespected when you do this action. And so just changing the way you say it goes a long way.
Yeah.
And our last T in trust and hot communication is trusting. You have to be willing to trust the way that your partner is feeling can't be coming from your actions. And so just trusting the things that they're saying and trusting that, they're being empathetic towards you. So you need to reciprocate that.
Yeah, that's real
That's so
good.
good. I'm over here taking notes because we
Yeah.
got some questions.
So yeah, 'cause- and we could even kind of stay on that hot section, and kind of just peel back the layers of that because there's a lot in there.
But before we do
Yeah.
that, can we go back to something you said about going in a cycle? Someone told us before that, like, if you're arguing past 5 minutes, then you're not even arguing about what you actually started.
Hmm. Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
actual issue that is. And so her thing was, examine that. Like, if this argument's going on for like 15, 20 minutes, you guys are like way off topic at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
so
something
true.
more to it.
There's something more to it. And a lot of time arguments stem from us deflecting our emotions. And the reason why we say deflecting, because a reflection is kind of like a mirror, kind of like what you see back. When you are deflecting, you're projecting your feelings onto your other partner. And so, a lot of times we can be feeling stressed from work or feeling stressed from family issues or something like that. And we'll deflect those emotions onto our partner. And we end up in this vicious cycle, and the other partner don't even know, what are we even arguing about? And you're just constantly deflecting your emotions onto your other partner.
Yeah.
And that can happen so often to the point we don't even realize it, and we end up burying the other stressors in our life and deflect them onto our partner. And now we're thinking that our partner is the problem when it's really, bottled up emotions that we're just deflecting on our partner, because in a way you're feeling like it's safe to lash out at that person. It's safe to say the things that I don't want to say to my boss or to my coworkers or to my kids. and you feel like it's safe to say you know, to your partner, not so much in a disrespectful way, but you just feel safe enough to lash out in that moment, and it just end up being a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really, really good. And that probably ties into the H part, which is the humble, the humility,
Yeah.
because you really have to do some self-discovery to
Mhm.
know what the real issue is, you know?
Yeah, so true. I
And
mean,
come on,
and
I feel
this is all from experience.
really.
We went back and looked at some of
Mhm.
the ways that we used to communicate, and we was like, if we knew this framework,
I'm
it
telling
could
you.
have saved us a lot of headache and heartache.
Yep. It's major keys. Like,
Yeah.
this would save so many other relationships so much trouble and, misunderstandings just by following this particular step and
Yeah.
in figuring out what the real issue is. So with that humble, that H part, how does somebody, what are some tips for somebody to develop that?
Right, because if you like in your space
Because
and
you
you've been
always want to
deflecting,
you want to prove people like, oh, it's your fault and this is why. You want to be right and prove the other person wrong. Like that's a hard place to start. That's why the H is the first letter, the humble part, because that's the
Yeah.
hardest part to deal with.
You have to, I wouldn't say let your ego die.
he's like,
But
Kill it.
kill it.
in that moment, and to me, I picture it as, in order to be humble, you have to feel naked. You have to picture yourself naked.
Yeah.
You have to be so vulnerable, and vulnerability humbles us. You know, that's one of the first ways to be humble, is to be vulnerable, because you know, when you are showing your emotional scars, your emotional wounds, your insecurities, you can't have an ego. It's nothing egotistical about showing the things that hurt my feelings. If my feelings are hurt, there's no ego in that, you know? And so being vulnerable is definitely one way. And another way is just reflecting on past arguments or past conversations, not only with your partner, but like also with your coworkers or with, you know, because a lot of times we find that, you know, even with our kids or with our coworkers, they'll say things that, you know, kind of hurt our feelings a little bit. And, you know, we can say something, a reaction that's, you know, ego building. Well, I do this, or I have this, or I did that. You're trying to get to where I am, you know, XYZ type reactions. And so just going back and reflecting on past conversations is another way. So vulnerability and reflection is, I think, the top two ways to kind of get in a humble space to start having those hot conversations.
Mhm. Yeah. And I guess it comes with like well, let me first back up and say, so Frankie and Jazz said the first step is for you to be naked.
Oh,
That's what
Akita.
you, that's what
Yes.
I, you gotta
I
prove.
love the way
Emotionally.
you said that.
You have to
That's
be.
awesome. Repeating what you heard, right?
Look, Frankie and Jazz said no.
Wait, is that humble of him? I don't understand.
Okay, so
What'd you
we
say?
read this article. I think it was on medium.com. Are you guys familiar with that? It's like a blogging site.
No,
I
we
think
gotta
I've
check
heard
it
of
out.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely check it out. There's a lot of good blogs on there. But this lady was blogging, and she said, you know, when you're having a really like tough conversation, like a really bad argument, she was like, just get naked. And she was like, it's
Write
hard
that
to
down.
argue with a naked person. You know, it's like, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
getting naked and we're
Put the clothes
arguing?
on now.
All the arguments that would solve, like if people were to do that. So make sure you write that.
That probably
down.
works for the men. The women be like, put the clothes on. I'm not trying to hear.
That's good though. That's good. But reflection and humility, that all takes a daily process. Like you have to, we
Yeah,
talk about killing the flesh daily. Like that's a daily
yeah,
process,
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say one of the ways we worked on it was journaling. We have seasons to where we journal about different things in our lives, and that out of, all things, just going back and looking at the things you journaled about, I mean, that really helps with reflecting. A week from now, you may not feel the same way about something. You might, oh man, that was stupid. I don't even know why I even,
Yeah.
And so just journaling is something that helped us.
Yeah. It allows you to see the growth over time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
reflect over past issues.
Yeah, I mean that's true because if you think about it, we do document, we journal everything else, really. Like if we are on a health journey, like we document our progress. If
Yep.
we go to class, we document what the teachers are saying. And like you said, it shows that progress. So
Yeah.
this is the same thing to know, like, am I going in the right direction? What are my triggers? What are
Yeah.
the things that are helping me improve? So that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. So, and then that's a great, I guess, segue into being open because you've now, stripped it yourself of all of the,
Clothes.
of all the clothes. I'm trying to say it in a good way,
All the
but
emotional clothes.
all of the pride, all of the other things that are kind of masking what you're really feeling. And now you can come from an open place to share that. So how does that look for somebody who's not used to being open?
Basically, it's a mindset shift, right? And so for us, it was a mindset shift of empathy. And we first started learning about this word empathy in college mainly. We heard it in high school, but in college, we was both trying to pursue healthcare, pre-med type curriculum. And they was talking about this word empathy a lot for your patients, empathy a lot. And once we started learning about this word empathy, it was like, you know what? You never really think to put yourselves in the other person's shoes, right? And you always come to that space with assumptions, right? And assumptions just don't cut it. Assumptions are not good enough. It's not okay for me to assume that, my partner is fine just because they put on a brave face, right? I need to be able to put myself in my partner's shoes and kind of walk through her day and see, what some of the stuff in her day could be stressing her out that I think she's okay with. And so I would say drop all assumptions. Don't assume anything. You know, be able to put yourself in your partner's shoes. And one way to do that was working on this workbook, and we were just saying, have your partner write out their entire day. And then you go back and ask them questions on, well, when you're at this point in your day, how are you feeling? You feeling tired? Are you feeling drained? And that was the activity that we're working on for our workbook. And I think that is so powerful because until we learn how to ask the right questions, there's no way we can get the right answer, until it's too late, until we are at a point where we are needing to work on our communication skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that point. Until we learn how to ask the right questions,
Mhm.
there's no way that we can get the right answers. I think
Yeah.
that's so true. And I think, in this communication piece is not something that, not in this way, not in the H.O.T.T way, is not something that we're taught,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. And so you get into the marriage and you haven't been taught how to communicate certain ways and you do what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of
Yeah.
it has to do with like how you were raised and,
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
school. You're taught to, prove your point, always be number one, be the winner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just travels along in your adulthood and it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you
So
gonna say
true.
something, Jazz?
Oh no, I was just gonna add that, you'll be surprised, just having 10, 15-minute conversations with your partner at the end of the day about how their day is, about how they're feeling, that can lead to more openness. Like
Yeah.
you practice that every single day, you make that a habit, and you'll start seeing that your partner may be a little bit more open um, in communication.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Building that communication. So then the next part is that's the transparency or is that the trust?
Transparency.
Transparency. Yep, I was right. So transparency, I guess, is built from that. How do you build that transparency? Because being open and letting your guard down is kind of hard. Through life, we've been through a lot of experiences, and walls are being built up, and we don't want to. It's kind of like a self-protector mechanism that is built in our, DNA. So how does somebody just like let themselves open like that and be transparent?
So transparency is, to me, it's like you're in the process of tearing down these walls, and transparency is punching a hole through that wall so that person can really see inside of you. And the way we start punching holes in this wall, so the way our partner can truly see us, is to, back again, be vulnerable, but also be vulnerable in a way that's from a point of leadership, right? And so no one can see beyond your walls unless you allow them to, right? And so you have to lead the way, you know, to lead the way to the point where your partner sees you, you know, in a transparent state. And that starts from everything. It starts with emotional stuff, but it also, transfer over into your finances, into other parts of your relationships, like sexual intimacy. And so if I'm open about my finances, that's just one more area that is transparent in our relationship. And so transparency happens way before the conversation starts. And it's just, those daily bids, those daily attempts to see more inside of your partner emotionally, and in all other areas of the relationship. And that's a cool thing about transparency, being transparent outside of the conversation. Once the conversation starts happening, your partner sees you, you know, they see the real you, they see, in other areas of your life. And so when that conversation happens, transparency is reciprocated.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you say like your partner sees you, because I think we hear couples all the time. We've even been the couple where it's like, you are not hearing what I'm saying, or you do not
Yeah. We went there.
hard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to show it, but I love the fact that you said because it happens before the conversation happens.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
building up and creating, I think, of a space or a dynamic where you're already seeing that person. So then when they bring something to you, you're actually hearing what they're saying as opposed to what the assumptions that you've already built up, before the conversation. So I like that. And let me just say, we are talking about work.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody's like, people keep saying marriage is work. And I'm like, what exactly do they mean? They mean H.O.T.T.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
People don't tell you.
it's definitely daily work. And I like what you said. A lot of times, people will say, we even been there. I don't know how to show you any more than what I'm telling you how I feel. But there are more ways for you to show them, because, a lot of times, some people may be dealing with childhood trauma. Be transparent with your partner and let them see that. Like I said, finances is a big topic, especially in marriages. Be transparent with your partner. Okay, I don't feel like we can afford that this month because of the way the finances is looking right now. Once you start letting your partner into every space of your life, transparency just happens. And we're no longer stuck with saying, I don't know how to show you no more than what I'm showing you, because now you are showing them. You're letting them into your space.
Yeah. And I love how you kind of break it down to where it doesn't have to be everything at once. And it doesn't just have to be one particular thing. Like there are other
Yeah.
ways that you can be transparent,
Mhm.
because
Oh yeah.
it's
Definitely.
it's hard for some people, like you said, childhood trauma, and sometimes just the way people were raised, like they were just built to not really express themselves, not really talk about their feelings or their emotions. And
Yeah.
it's hard for the other person to understand what it is actually that's going on. So working on different places and kind of chipping it down and getting a deeper connection. It is work, but you know, it's a process. And I think people try to speed up the process, and that's where they get discouraged.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I think
Definitely takes a lot of practice.
yes.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
And while you're talking, I'm hearing in my head a conversation that we had with another couple, and I could see one of the spouses saying like you said, I don't think that we have enough money to purchase this thing, and then I could hear the other spouse like, yeah, we do, and but when that happens, I also can see the spouse that said we don't have enough money. I
Right.
could see like walls coming up, and I could see
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
going backwards, right? And so I'm glad that trust is the next T because I'm glad that trust is the next T. I'm glad to talk about that. But I know that something else that you talked about too was that leadership component.
Yeah, I meant to say, yeah.
And
That's a
I
good
feel
one.
like that is real important to
And
talk about.
nobody really thinks about transparency being a form of leadership.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. So
it's a
true.
space of weakness, and it's not. Like it's an empowering space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
you shared with us that you took that position
Hmm.
with Jazz, and maybe we could talk a little bit about that because I feel like if you don't have that kind of understanding, it could like somebody could really be opening up, and then it could go
Yeah.
in reverse because the response isn't right.
Yeah. So true. So uh, I'm glad God gave me the idea of vulnerability as leadership because one day I was lifting weights, weight training. Kind of into weight training now. I'm kind of taking a little sabbatical from working out. But so with weight training, you're in a space where you are breaking your muscles down so they can repair and rebuild stronger than they were before the breakdown. And so with vulnerability, you're breaking your emotions down. You're feeling broken. You're feeling naked, right? So you can allow your partner into that space to build you up so you are stronger emotionally the next time this happens. And so we did a relationship conference on Valentine's Day weekend. And I was saying in order for you to work on your insecurities, you have to share your insecurities with your partner. You have to allow them to come into that insecure space so those spaces can now be secured. And so that's for me, that's how I look at vulnerability now. And like I said, I just thank God for placing it on my heart because I've been able to share that with other men, with coworkers and things like that. And like I said, I give all glory to God for that.
Yeah, that's good. And it's great to have, men take that position on vulnerability and transparency because we have been, put into this confine that you cannot talk about your emotions and
Yeah,
you're looked at as weak. And I could even see how that may affect, women, you know what I mean? And their perception of men, that men are not supposed to be vulnerable.
yeah.
So
We were
my
just talking about that.
yeah. So, Chaz, how do you, or how did you kind of welcome that transparency from Frankie?
So I don't know, like growing up, I was the only child and I was pretty much spoiled. And so I didn't have to like really deal with like my emotions and all that kind of stuff.
Only child, yeah.
So
Spoiled.
so when it came to, having these difficult conversations or, me and Frank was going through different stuff, I just kind of like bottled my emotions up and didn't express myself the way that I should have. Like I just kept everything to myself. And he was like, well, what's wrong? What's going on? Oh, nothing. It's fine. You know,
Yeah,
it was just like that in the beginning. But when I saw that he was vulnerable and like started to like lay out all his feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff, I kind of followed and started doing the same thing. It wasn't easy at first, but now, we can talk about anything and
Yeah.
I can tell him how I feel. So that was important in our relationship. So I'm kind of glad that he led with it, because if he didn't, I mean, now I probably would have been more vulnerable, but back then it would have took a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like, like back in the day, like, oh, I don't want to be the first one to the party. We're going to see who are going to be there. If my friend's not there, I'm not coming. And, now it's like, we're going to be the first one. We're going to be the first one gone. And so, it's like nobody wants to be the first one to the party of being vulnerable. Right. And so, I personally feel like as a man, it's kind of your duty to step up and do those things that your other partner may not want to do, and show them that it's leadership. And, you need leadership in both partners, right? Yeah. Jasmine is a leader in other things in our relationship. And so I think that's also important as well.
Yeah. That's really good, because I mean, really what it's about is you have to, as a man, I feel, and you feel, that you have to create the culture that you want to see in your relationship.
Yeah.
And in your family. And sometimes that does mean sacrificing your pride. Well, not sometimes, but that does mean sacrificing your pride and just other areas that may be an uncomfortable space. You know what I mean? So how did that build your trust? Like, what was the process in that actually building the trust that you guys had with each other?
Oh man, that did wonders.
Yeah.
That did wonders. Because at that stage, it was coming out of high school, in college, and transitioning kind of like into the real world. And so it's always this thing, like, when you're teens, you have your crazy moments. That's all I'm gonna say here. But seriously though, it was a amazing process of building trust for us. And I think that when when your partner see that you are willing to lay it all out, you're being vulnerable, you're humble, you're showing respect, it's so much easier to build trust than just saying, trust me. Because now it's only one directional, right? But when we're humble, when we're vulnerable, when we're showing respect, now we have it coming to us in multiple directions, right? And so now it's easier for that trust to sink in and to stay, because we know that out of anything else, my partner is going to respect me as a woman. He's going to respect me. Out of anything else, my partner's he gonna tell me how he feel, no matter my reception of it. He's gonna let me know, but he's also gonna say it in a humble way. So now we're building these different blocks that allows for trust to be there, but we're also building, a fence around it that allow that trust to stays in, and that comes with consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, while you were talking, I was writing down, it creates a stable environment, which creates that safe space, because that this, at the end of the day, you're gonna be treated this particular way, or that space is going to, you know what you're gonna get, and so I think, like you said, building it over time.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you are laying the groundwork for like a house or a home. In order, you can't just build the house on top of rocky, ground.
Yeah.
And you have to build that foundation with the humility and the openness and transparency.
Yeah,
and then,
I love it.
See?
Yeah.
All these words are like, oh.
Yeah.
I just think of like, it takes courage. And I love Brene Brown. I think we talked about her before. Her thing about like courage really is vulnerability. And being able to be vulnerable. And it's not an easy thing.
And it's surprising that everything about it, or mostly everything about it, is an internal work.
Right. It's not about the other person.
It's all the internal work. And it's amazing how that, because we can go to the gym, Frankie, and we can like tear down our muscles all day and have no problem about it. But
exactly,
internal work is like so hard for people, you know.
Yeah, so true.
But yeah,
But it's worth it.
but it's worth it, and
Yeah,
it's possible.
it is.
It's possible. So thank you guys for like breaking that. I think that hot thing is like, yeah,
We're gonna be telling people
that's
about
a
that.
gem.
We're gonna be like,
That's the gym.
y'all
That's a
better
gem.
trademark that. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask each couple, what is your favorite way to stay connected?
Favorite way to stay connected. I guess quality time for us. Watching a movie or binging our favorite show on Netflix. Our comfort food. So we're foodies.
Yeah.
So if a new restaurant is in town, we're there. If a pop-up restaurant or something come in, we're there. A new food truck, we're there. So, I think that's a pretty good. People bond over food. That stems from childhood, from family sitting at the dinner table, and so that's probably the number one way we've been.
Yeah. Quality
Food.
time.
Y'all just like us, man, because we always
We're like, because our anniversary is coming up, and
Yeah.
we're like, so what do we do? But it has to surround some kind of food.
Yeah.
That really
Happy early anniversary, by the way.
You know what it
going out
is?
to eat? Is that like
It creates like a space where, especially if you're not on your phones while you're there, but like it just creates a space of like conversation and just kind of really that one-on-one time without distractions and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what were we were on another
And good food.
yeah, like that it stimulates the senses, like the smell and then the taste.
Yeah.
Like
It's funny how good food stimulates good conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it comes like from childhood or like what, but good food, like bite into a good sandwich, a good burger, something, and it's like, oh, you remember that time when? And I'm like, how do we even start talking about this?
Yep. That's good.
so true. Okay, so our second question is,
Oh, it's a good one.
how has staying connected to other couples helped you in your relationship?
Oh man. I would say that's been like essential. We're big community people. We come from a small town, so community is everything for us. So once we started our Instagram, creating Forever's Instagram, it was like so much love and support, and it was like, okay, God, we hear you. We are doing the right thing. We're doing what we're supposed to do, and that's one of the things that excites us about hopping on every day. Just couples sharing, couples upbuilding other couples. And our pastor has been a vital part in us too, from premarital counseling to ongoing counseling to training us to be relationship coach, Christian relationship coaches.
I wanted to ask you the last question that we have, which is my favorite, is to pick two different couples, that well-known couples, and see which ones you guys would want to be like more. Who's your couple's goals? So would it be Barack and Michelle or Jay-Z and Beyonce? Now, wait, look, here's a precursor. It has nothing to do about the money, about the cloud or anything like that, but just how they operate.
About the body.
Yeah, none of that.
I got you.
Just about how they operate and how they mesh well as a couple.
Ooh.
Michelle and Barack or Jay-Z and Bay? What does it be?
B. Don't get it wrong. We have the hive.
I don't want the hive because I got her name wrong.
Michelle and Barack Obama. I don't know. They just, through all that they went through individually, if they were to get asked a question on the interview about this, they were 1,000% supportive, and they didn't tolerate anything being said about their spouse. And that was one of the things that, I kind of noticed throughout both terms. And I would say we're pretty much like that, You ain't about to say nothing about my wife and think you about to sweep that under the rug because I'm coming for you.
Yeah, we don't allow anybody to come between us or say anything against one of us, It's that ride or die type thing.
That's it.
Right.
So we may be like Jay and Bay at that.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
definitely.
It's so hard.
It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, but I think that's well said, because Barack, like, he really talk about leading, leading by example. Like, he's a great example of that.
So true. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like them too. Michelle.
That was our choice.
That
That was our choice too.
Yeah.
Was there any other last parts of feedback or insights that you guys had?
I would just say, when you're working on your communication, just make sure that you don't think that it's going to change overnight. It just take constant practice. And as you practice, I mean, just journal and see how, it has changed over time. But just don't think that it's going to happen overnight.
Yeah, we did a post. It was like 10 steps to improve your communication skills. And step one was kind of like to learn how to build your communication skills. And steps 2 through 10 was practice. And so, yeah, that's definitely a big one. You definitely have to practice it every day.
So listen, we appreciate you guys so much. I want you to tell everybody how they can reach you, how they can follow you, give them your handles, all that good stuff.
Okay, so we're at Creating Forevers on Instagram. That's Creating Forevers with an S. You can DM us. You can email us from there. Link in the bio if you want to do relationship coaching, or just email us any questions that maybe too long to put in the comments or in the DM. But that's where we are. You can find us there. Like I said, link is in the bio for coaching.
But thank you guys so much to our followers. Thank you for listening in, and we will talk to you next time.